I call this meeting to order, and I call this meeting of the Kennedale Independent School District to order. Let the record show that a quorum of board members is present, that this meeting has been duly called, and notice of this meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Governance Code, Chapter 551. If you will, please join me in saying our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Everyone may be seated. All right. And the first item is, where is my list? There it is. First item is a roll call for members that are here. Once I say your name, please answer here or present or whatever you desire. Ms. Maria Cruz Perez.
Here.
Mr. Esteban Cerda.
Here.
Mr. Sean Glovier.
Here.
Ms. Maria Douglas.
Here.
Ms. Felicia Moody.
Here.
And Daryl Owens is here, and Ms. Debbie Villagomez is not here. She is to be marked as absent. Okay? Next on the agenda are public comments, and no comments? Okay, so there are no comments for any items on the agenda, and there are no comments for items that are not on the agenda. Okay. Next would be the consent agenda. The consent agenda will be approved with one motion unless any of the board members request that it be taken off of the consent agenda. Are there any motions to take anything off the consent agenda?
Mr. President, I motion that the minutes need a correction, so they either be corrected or removed from the consent agenda.
And what corrections would that be, Ms.?
The minutes indicate that I was absent, yet they also show that I made many motions and seconds that night, so I was quite present.
I thought Mrs. Williams had sent a clarification.
Oh, it's corrected now?
on that.
Okay.
No, it was always there. It was right under Paul. I sent you an email.
Okay, because the one that I read had
The one that's in the board book hasn't been changed.
has not been changed in the board book. Okay,
Right, but it's correct. It shows when you entered it 7:04.
okay,
It just doesn't show you in the beginning. That's how the next grade.
That's the way they've always
Okay.
recorded it.
Okay, wait, what?
so it still says absent at the top?
Okay, you want to come down,
During the
Tracy?
So,
During the roll call, you were absent, but then at 7:04, you.
It shows when you
Let me see.
entered the meeting at 7:04.
Let me
Okay.
go get the clarification and we can.
She
Yeah.
sent a clarifying email on it the other day.
Okay, I just didn't see it in the minutes, the way I read it, so let me just read the minutes again real quick. Okay, gotcha, under section A. Okay. So we don't clarify it up at the top, we just leave it as absent up there and then,
We mark you present when you enter
Okay.
into the as the agenda falls.
okay, gotcha. Then, Mr. President, I will withdraw my motion.
Okay, well, great. So moving forward then, we entertain a motion regarding the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion, we accept all items under the consent agenda.
second?
Okay, so it's been Ms. Douglas made a motion and second by Ms. Cruz. So, all in favor of that motion, let it be known by the sound aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion is carried. Okay, next we'll go to section number 6 on our agenda for informational items. Mr. G.
First up will be 6A, which will be counseling update from Dr. Devlin.
Stephanie Devlin, Director.
I think Brian's checking the microphone.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm Stephanie Devlin, Director of Counseling Services, and tonight we're going to do a program update. We did one in October, so this is an end-of-year review for the 21-22 school year and what we're looking forward to in the 22-23 school year. Right. Is it going to come up?
Gotta love technology.
Third time's a charm. Oh, no. So we'll begin. So in just looking at the framework in which we follow the Texas School Comprehensive Program, where we spend the four components of guidance curriculum, responsive services, individual planning, and system support, and then ensuring that we're also covering the 10 responsibility domains in those four components. So last year, we had 5 campuses, and we had 1 campus counselor at every campus and 2 counselors at our high school. In addition, we had 2 district social workers that we were able to add, an additional communities and schools case manager at our junior high, and then we continued our communities and schools case manager at our high school. And below each campus is a small snapshot of demographics and programs that counselors support or provide oversight at each of their campuses as well, including the at-risk program, students who are served under 504, students under foster care services, and also McKinney-Vento. And looking at program review, starting with data, we have a few data sources that we look at in reflection and also throughout the year and see if any pivots need to be made, program supports need to be added. And our counselors submit a program planning form at the beginning of every month to their principal and to myself on how they're going to spend their time in the 4 components of guidance, support services, individual planning, and responsive services. We review those, see if pivots need to be made, and adjust accordingly. In addition, we have a counselor referral form at every campus where students are referred to the campus counselor through teachers, administrators, self-referral, and parents, and we collect that data and look at those pieces in addition to investigation reports and PEIMS reports, and principals also get that information every 9 weeks for their campus data report, so they can kind of see the top 5 counseling referrals, what culture and climate's looking like for that 9 weeks, and then we also review it in our biweekly and quarterly meetings. So for the snapshot for the year last year, these are the top 5 counseling referrals for our elementary campuses, which was pre-K through 6, and secondary counseling referrals for 7th through 12th. So for elementary, the top 5, and these are student referrals that landed in the counseling office: peer relationships, anger and aggression, disruption in class, family concerns, anxiety, and then other. For secondary, we see a little bit more of academic schedule changes, post-secondary guidance, student schedules, conflict with peer, grades, stress, anxiety, and conflict with teacher. In addition to our campus counselor referral data, we also look at investigations reports that are sent to my office and reviewed, and those are our bullying reports that we reviewed in October as well. And so the green is the total number of bullying investigations that happened at elementary and secondary, and then the gray are the actual substantiated reports. So out of those investigations, how many of those reports were where bullying was founded. Our administrators do a very thorough job, follow very precise procedures and policy in bullying investigations, and so those are all submitted, we review them, and our numbers were lower, luckily, than in the substantiated than they were in the investigated. Our Communities and Schools program, we've had going into our 4th year at the high school and going into our 2nd year at the junior high. This year was the first year that they started utilizing a Panoramas survey for their pre and post data. So any student who enrolls in their services, they get a meet with them and do a survey with them, And then at the end of the year, also do a survey and we compare those pieces in addition to data reports. They pull attendance and grades and behavior. So we're still waiting on that final reports for our end of year. This is a survey that was completed at the beginning of the year when students started services with communities and schools, which again was at our junior high and high school campuses. And I just wanted to highlight the 2 areas of emotion regulation and self-efficacy on a scale of 1 to 5. How often are you able to pull yourself out of a bad mood? The average was a 2.69 for our secondary kids. And on a scale of 1 to 5, how confident are you that you can do the hardest work that is assigned in your classes? 2.65. So we look at that when we received that report. We got this mid-year and made some shifts in our SEL components that we were delivering to our secondary campuses as well. And I'm eager to receive our end-of-year report, which should be coming in the next couple of weeks. In addition, attendance. This is an attendance that we received at the mid-year. So we started communities in schools at the high school at 2019-2020. And of course, that spring is when everything shut down. So those are our attendance rates for all CIS students. We don't have anything to compare junior high yet, but we will when we get end-of-year data, and then next year we'll continue to build upon that. So these are the average attendance for all students under communities in schools. So in 2019-2020, the baseline was 84.2.9%. 2020, it increased. 21, it increased a little bit. And that with the hybrid model that we started at the school year and so forth contributed to those numbers. And then this past year, and again, this is a mid-year snapshot, we went back up from 2019-2020, 88.9.7%. In addition, we look at our surveys that are sent out at the end of year to our parents and students. So I took a few of those snapshots to include here. This is, I feel physically safe at school, and my school is a safe place to learn from students. So 94% of students feel their school is a safe place to learn. I feel that my school helps prevent bullying on campus and online. 48% of students feel that their school is doing enough to prevent bullying. I can identify at least one adult on campus I could go to with a problem. 81% of students have at least one adult they can go to with a problem. And then this is parent data. Do you feel that your school is doing enough to prevent bullying on campus? 64% of parents feel campuses are doing enough to prevent bullying. How safe do you feel that your child is at school? 77% of parents feel a level of safety for their child at school. So definitely some areas to address and look at and provide support in as we look at perception of students and parents and in collection to what data we receive on campuses. So in looking at that, reviewing programs coming into the new school year, and just a reminder, this is how our framework is built in the areas in which I spend time. And moving to 4 campuses next year, we'll have at least 1 campus counselor at every campus and 1 social worker or CIS case manager at every campus. So there'll be 1-to-1, which will be great to have that additional support versus having to share those services amongst campuses. And then this is how we spend time in Kendall ISD in those 4 component areas. And these are just a few of the pieces, and we're going to highlight a couple of them in the next few slides. But for our guidance curriculum, we have a consistent, comprehensive curriculum through second step. We have a local created ICL toolkit, which elaborates and expands upon those pieces for teachers to utilize in the classroom. We have our local Paul Pride character traits, Play It Safe, which is an outside organization that comes in and works on safety pre-K through 12th grade. Parent U, which we'll speak on in just a little bit, in college and career readiness, which will also bringing a new program this next school year. For responsive services, so any services that lands in the counseling office that counselors need to respond to, whether it's individual or small group or crisis intervention, that could be SEL related, it could also be academic related, and then of course any social work support as well that lands in the counseling office. System support ranges from 504, all our campus counselors are 504 coordinators except at the high school, at-risk monitoring, professional development that they put on for their staff, continuing that community outreach with our local organizations and churches for services that can assist our parents and families, consult and collaborate with our staff and teachers as well. And then individual planning looks different across the grade levels. We provide support and personal graduation plans. Again, that goes back to 504, looking at IEPs and providing support under special student services, social emotional plans, and then also looking at any retention and promotion and serving and supporting those pieces on committees. So second step is our guidance curriculum that we utilize pre-K through 8th grade. So it's really nice to be able to have the same curriculum at every campus, so it builds upon each grade level. It partners with KISD's 5 social emotional competencies. It really works on a holistic framework, and that not just counselors delivering the SEL components, but also teachers reinforcing that, and then also families being able to have that same language at home as well. And the 5 areas that KISL focuses on that second step works with is, in addition, is self-management, social awareness, relationship skills, responsible decision-making, and social awareness. We have our Pop Pride character traits. So this is a additional tool that counselors utilize in their guidance lessons every month. Sometimes in the cafeteria, they expound upon it as well. Teachers nominate the student in their class that has exhibited those traits to the best of their ability every month, and then we partner with our CTE practicum graphic design students who design their certificates and print them, and then we award those students with their certificate. Before COVID, we had a little ceremony and open cafeteria days where students, family members could come and surprise their student when they were going to receive that certificate. In addition, second step, curriculum aligns with the TEKS that we're supposed to follow for positive character traits. So just again, weaves all in together for those services that we provide. Parent U is something that has been in development for 4 years, and it's taken on different shapes. The past 3 years, we have partnered with AV practicum students through CTE. They film short psychoeducational sessions, and then we stream them out through YouTube and the AV channel. We put them in our family newsletters. We also post them on the website and send them out through social media. And these are just small little snapshots our counselors and social workers put on for our families and students. And they did 9 sessions last year. And we look forward to this year and looking at kind of needs, and then we can provide those services and also provide those educational pieces to our community. So our department resources that we have created, we have a counseling at home site for students and families, a counseling SEL toolkit for our staff and teachers, and then we have a counseling services site that's internal that supports our administrators and counselors. So looking at next year and some additional items we're going to be able to bring in second step, they have a small group support called Out of School Time that we're going to purchase to help our counselors continue that same language and narrative when they're working with students in small group setting that they're getting in the classroom. In addition, a bullying prevention component. Bullying prevention is addressed already in what we do in second step, and we utilize that curriculum. They also have an additional level of support that we're going to bring in this year. Our numbers did increase this school year for investigation substantiated reports, and the perception of parents and students continues to be that we're not doing enough, so we need to shift and do more. Than we're going to do that, and bringing in this additional layer as well. So with that, Zello is a software program that we're going to bring in for our pre-K through 8th grade students that focuses on college and career readiness. We piloted it this past school year at our 8th grade students, and we're going to ensure that all of the students are receiving the same exposure to college and career starting in kindergarten. And then by the time they get to high school, they will have a portfolio online that follows them with career interest inventories. They'll have different assessments they can take, and then when they get to high school, they'll have their graduation plan in there, and they can be really working on making sure that they are aware of credits, what they're deficient in, what they need, and creating tools for them to be self-advocate for themselves and the pieces they want to aspire. In our families, we are bringing in our parent training Resilient Kids, which is the grant we got last year, to serve our district in parent training through a 13-week intensive program. And we're going to partner with our Rotary and local community churches to provide childcare and dinner, and our district social workers are going to lead that training for our parents. We are kicking that off in end of August, beginning of September. And that's all I have for tonight. You have any questions?
Can you tell me a little bit more, like you said, for the bullying, you're going to obviously implement and some more supports.
Mm-hmm.
Can you elaborate a little bit what that might look like?
Sure. So the bullying prevention program that creates additional level of support with second step is helping the teachers have the same language and utilizing educational pieces so that everyone understands kind of what bullying is not, and then also being able to utilize those educational pieces with families too. So often the definition of the word is utilized in different capacities, and so making sure that the pieces that we have in sharing with students is the same that parents are hearing and staff members are hearing as well. So it's additional guidance lessons, and it goes from whole school all the way down to individual as far as bullying, specifically for bullying prevention. It meets all of the requirements in law that we are supposed to cover as well. We were already meeting those too, but these will just provide an additional support.
And in the survey, obviously, we asked the students because we saw the student responses and certain numbers. Did we ask them, an open-ended question of if their perception was that range, what they would suggest, or what their perception of that could be done differently?
That was not a question on the survey this year, but we could definitely look into that.
And on the student surveys, on the parent surveys, it was 77%, but on the student surveys, it was like 95%, and on the staff surveys, it was higher as far as being safe at school and the bullying. I don't think there was as big of a perception that the parents had
For safety?
for bullying.
The question for bullying, yes, I can't remember the exact percentages on there. What was reassuring is the high percentage of students who reported they had an adult at campus that they could go to, as so often the relationships that are built is the foundation for any program that we offer, especially when providing bullying support and making sure our kids feel safe. So we will definitely highlight that, and our teachers and staff are doing a great job in building those relationships. However, bullying still seems to be populating on an area of concern for our students and parents.
Yeah, I think, Mr. G, there were a couple questions, but the one that I was kind of particularly, is my student safe, was a higher number. I think it was 77, but students feeling that enough was being done to prevent was 48, and then parents feeling enough being done was 64. So I was just wondering if there was a follow-up, open-ended question of if you feel there's not enough being done, what would they,
Sure.
have suggested?
That's a great question.
And then too, the difference between, online is a big deal now.
It is.
So I'm pretty sure, I don't have your data, but online is probably worse than.
And I don't have that in front of me, but yes, I would say in looking at the majority, especially at secondary, was online cyberbullying accusations. Agreed, yes. And the second step has a component that addresses that as well. And we do district-wide do digital citizenship, and we talk about safety. Play It Safe addresses that. We have that we've done throughout the school year in addition to the guidance lessons, but we will continue to meet those needs.
The career readiness platform that you mentioned, Zello,
Yes.
you said it's going to be rolling out this year.
Yes, sir. Kindergarten through 8th grade. And then the next year, it'll go up to high school.
Okay.
And so it'll be kinder through 12.
K through 8 only this year.
Yes.
Nice.
We realize some opportunity for growth at our younger grades. We have career day and we do things throughout the year, but a consistent college and career is something that we needed to have. And so in doing a lot of research and variety of programs that met the needs of our elementary and secondary students, Zello was the best fit and got really good reviews in surrounding districts that utilize it. So we are excited to bring it in. And our elementary campuses are very excited to have another component for college and career.
Okay, I'm kind of excited about it too, but how early are they going to be able to receive some type of certification, or I believe it is?
Certification for,
Well, career and college readiness, I'm sure there's some things that they're going to get some type of a sticker in the elementary school that they.
Oh, you're talking about at what age they
Yes.
start getting? Okay.
I think this is in relation to the fact that you said Zello is going to be utilized from kindergarten all the way up.
Yes.
Correct me if I'm wrong, you're asking if, what shows that we're career ready and, well, before high school.
Or proficient in whatever, and
Yeah.
building
Yeah.
upon that to go to the next level. How early will we start that?
so all the accountability pieces are tied into our high school, secondary. So in the certificates, as far as learning, getting college and career certificates at our secondary, but they will start being able to utilize this platform in kindergarten. And as far as earning anything that the goal and ideal is that the kindergarten student stays with us all the way through graduation. And so they will have a platform in continuing to build their portfolio and support so that we can better serve them as well in programs of study to enroll in once they get to secondary, and what certifications and post-secondary opportunities would best align with their personalities.
So would this look like an individual planning process that they would start in kindergarten so they can start planning their life for whenever they become adults?
Yes.
Not just like, yeah, we're training you on Microsoft Word, it's just where is your interest
Yeah,
lies and where you're gonna go?
yes, and it's very, so at the kindergarten level, at elementary level, it's more games and aesthetically pleasing for that age group, but also giving them tools and skill sets and interest inventories, I believe start in 3rd grade, for them to start filling out kind of what desires, what interests do they have, and so that will continue to follow and graph as they get older and see how that stays the same or changes, but they won't get training necessarily like on Microsoft Word or so forth till we start getting closer to secondary. This is more to align, starting with just getting them the verbiage, knowing that there's opportunities out there beyond K-12 for them to explore whatever that looks like for them. Does that answer? Okay.
Zello is a computer-based program, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
It's a software program, yes.
So I don't think everyone is aware of that. So
Okay.
Zello it's a computer-based program. The kids log on, they look to see, I want to be a police officer, what reading level I need to have in order to be a police officer, how much it's going to pay, and whether or not I want to continue down that path or try something else. So,
Yes.
and then I don't know what it looks like in high school, but that's just how elementary.
Yes, elementary has additional components as far as, like I said, some games and everything that they can play and learn about different career paths that they can explore. And then once you get closer to secondary and you start collecting all the data that says you want to be an architect, it'll tell you what schools offer that diploma, how much that costs, what SAT score do you need to have that, what GPA do you need to have to, what things you need to have on your college application and so forth to meet those needs. And if it's not college, if it's a career that doesn't necessarily need a college diploma, it'll look at what you need to do to meet those requirements, and it'll tell you that. And then they can also, once they get older, they can do their own research if they want to explore different careers, and then also their credits will follow them, high school credits, so they can log in and see kind of where they need to make up classes, are they on track, do they need to change their program of study to meet the needs of a college because they want to go into nursing and so forth.
Any additional questions, Ms. Evans?
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do I move this forward?
Do you want me to go through it, or do you want?
Why don't you go ahead? You can go
All
ahead.
right, so on 6B is the annual update from the Student Health Advisory Council. It is a written report that was submitted by Nurse Vasquez. A lot of the information there will also be addressed by Dr. Du in the next section, section 7. So if you have any questions, we can go over it, but it's pretty, just a summary of their meetings and activities.
Okay.
And then C is, Mr. Adams, you have one down. You have a sheet that Mr. Adams gave me, which is the preliminary.
Excuse me. I gave you a memorandum that I prepared this afternoon. The data has been kind of slow dragging in, so we got our quote for our property and casualty insurance on Tuesday. Last weekend, the U.S. Department of Agriculture released our reimbursement rates, so we've really been struggling trying to pull all the last few pieces together. I have completed the budget for the general fund and for the debt service fund. Both of these budgets are in balance. That means the revenues equal the expenditures. Food service budget is substantially complete. like I said, we did not receive our federal reimbursements till this last weekend, and we're trying to verify all the amounts that we're gonna put into our budget for food service, so we're really close on it. Under the general fund budget, I'm gonna propose a tax rate for the general fund of $94 or 94.47 cents per $100 valuation. Last year, our rate was $1.0174 per $100 valuation. I received certified values last Thursday. That's the last piece of that puzzle. So, and our values went to $2,035,217,541. Compared to last year's was only $1,821,445,586. It's an increase of 11.74%. Under House Bill 3, we have to do a computation that will compute our maximum compressed rate, MCR. Our MCR this year was computed at 80.60, let's see, 0.8064 per $100 valuation. We had to send that to TEA, and we got our approval that we had done it right. So, several years ago, 2008 exactly, we had a tax ratification election where they voted to raise the enrichment rate, and that is set at 0.1383 per $100 valuation. So you add the, where'd it go? 8064 and 1383, and that's where you get the 9447. So if anybody asks that question. Prior to House Bill 3, the district had a tax rate of $1.17 per $100 valuation for maintenance and operation. Now we're down to 0.9447. That's a drop of 22.5 cents over the last 4 years.
That's all it's been since we came into the district.
Yep.
So the state has forced us to compress down that much.
The good news is, even though we had to compress our tax rate, we're bringing in a whole bunch more taxes. So a lot of that has to do with new improvements. So, and we didn't, a lot of, like the apartment complexes, they're not at full value yet. They won't be until they're open. So hopefully they'll be done by December 31st. And when they value them for January 1st, we'll get another sizable increase in our values. A lot of the housing project down here, most of those houses will be done by December 31st, so they'll all go on the tax roll next year too. Our state funding is based on an average daily attendance of 2,850 kids. We won't know how accurate our estimate is until next summer, summer of 2023, after school's out and we tallied up all the attendance records. And but we do believe that this is a reasonable number for our enrollment. Expenditures have been adjusted where the district knows the estimated amounts to be at for the coming year. You approved the compensation packages. I know what those raises are. You know, assuming we replace a teacher with a like kind of teacher, we should be okay. Fuel cost, we all know what that is. I did add $40,000 to our fuel cost, $25,000 in transportation and $15,000 in maintenance. Hopefully that will be enough.
I'm sorry, will you say that again? You said 40,000 for
Fuel,
all three, or just fuel?
just fuel. And our property insurance went up approximately 25% over what we paid last year. It's gonna be, well, you'll find out next month, because we have to bring it to you, because it's more than $50,000. It's actually 427,000. So I got that on Tuesday. So that was the last piece of the general fund budget that I needed to plug in.
Is the 25% increase in our property insurance, is that because of?
We increased our values,
Okay.
part of it, and we've had several claims.
Okay, that's,
Between the winter storm area where we had the water pipe bursting, we've had the fire at the concession stand, we've had Arthur.
The flood
we've
at
had-
Arthur.
So,
I mean, yeah, we're spending 427,000, but what Blackman Mooring, it looks like it's gonna cost is 525,000 for their work. So, I just won't send them.
Just curious.
Don't send them the
No, no.
money, we'll call it even. But no, we've had some sizable claims in the last year, plus our values did increase significantly. Because we're trying to keep up with replacement costs. We all know what that means. Debt service fund, I'm proposing a tax rate of 0.2817, the same as this current year's. Setting the rate at that, we'll have enough to make our regular payments, plus we'll be able to claw about $2.25 million bonds that will mature in 2031, I think. So we'll save interest going forward. Like I said, the food service budget has been difficult to compute. We're reverting back to the National School Lunch Program, NSLP, where they pay us for a full price meal, a reduced price meal, and a free meal. We get different rates for those. So that means we've got to track those meals again. We haven't done this for 2 years because we've been on the free bandwagon for a while. Inflation and supply chain issues are making it hard to estimate cost. Most of our bids came in significantly higher. We belong to a cooperative of other Metroplex districts.
And I'll interject, at the last board meeting, you on the consent agenda approved the vendor, the co-op list to help
Right.
with that, offset some of those costs, so we can have better supply.
And like I said, the USDA did not release the reimbursement amounts till last weekend, or that's when we got them. At this time, we're hoping to bring a balanced budget. I think we probably can. It may take an adjustment somewhere down the road once we figure out how many kids are gonna eat. You know, pretty well everybody was eating when we were feeding everybody for free. I think kids may start bringing their lunches again, that kind of stuff. So we're shooting in the dark because we haven't done it for 2 years, so we really don't know. But Director Lori Humiston has done a great job of replenishing our fund balance. We're back to post-COVID levels. We spent a whole lot that first year, more than we brought in. Lori would come to me and say, "We're losing money," and I said, "Yeah, I know, we're gonna lose money right now, because that's just the way it is." Because we were still paying everybody to work, and we weren't feeding anybody, so. But this year, this fiscal year that we're currently in, she's gonna replenish our fund balance back up to pre-COVID level, so we'll be in good shape again. In summary, sometime before August the 31st, the board will have to adopt the budget and set the tax rate for the 22-23 school year. We have to hold a public hearing, and we have to publish that meeting. Wasn't sure exactly what date to pick. The regular board meeting, I think, if it's the third Thursday, would be on the 18th, but that's only like 3 weeks away. Or do we want to push it back a little bit to the following week? And until y'all set that date for the next board meeting, that's, my publication has to be between 10 and 30 days of whenever we're going to do it, so. I've got a big window, but I need to know a date, so, and we'll wait till later on in the agenda.
What is your recommendation?
I'd like to push it as far back as I can, but,
That's typically what we've done, push it to the
I
last
mean,
week of
but, you know,
Last week of August.
That's
Yeah.
the
Is it a special
25th.
meeting?
be like the 25th.
Special meeting
Is it
or
a
a regular
special
meeting?
I'm sorry?
Is it a special meeting?
That could
Yes.
be regular meeting.
Yes.
Yeah, it can be done at a regular
It'll be a
meeting.
regular meeting, but we will have a public hearing during the regular meeting.
Okay, I think we had at least slated that it would be, the regular meeting would be the 18th. The original, we said that it was gonna be the 18th, so I was just trying to clarify.
Push it to the end of the month.
We're gonna push that? Okay.
His
I
recommendation.
mean, that would be my recommendation. That way, potentially, I could have whatever final budget amendments we're gonna have to make. I know we're gonna have to book something for insurance recovery, but how much of the work will be done at the, at Arthur by then, so. That's the main one I'm looking at. Everything else
So the
would
recommendation is to move the regularly scheduled board meeting from the 18th to the 25th and have the public hearing all at the same time.
all at the same time.
So would the public hearing be at 5 and then we would do our meeting? Or we would start
Last-
the meeting and
Last year, it was just one of the items
on the agenda?
We
in
just
the,
called the public hearing inside the
'cause
agenda,
you-
and then after the public hearing, then we made it an action item,
Okay.
but later on.
most districts I've been with, sometimes we've set it, 30 minutes before the regular board meeting to have the public meeting, and it takes about that long, and then you sit there and wait for 28 minutes for the regular meeting to start, so. Last year's agenda, the public hearing was one of the agenda items for the adoption of the budget, the tax rate.
And is the proposed tax rate the .95 cents?
9447 plus
is-
the 2871.
Wait, say that again? The 94 plus the 28?
Yes, ma'am.
So.
That's your combined tax rate.
Wait,
That's the combined
what's the-
rate.
What's the total then? I don't think I saw
Wait.
that. 95 plus 20, 29, I'll round up. So $1.24 about is what we're.
2264.
Did you say 122.64?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And just for clarification, for people, listening or viewing later, that .9447 is actually down, that is lower than last year's 1.0174. And the other stays the same as it was last year.
Yes, ma'am.
So one is staying the same, the other is going down for a total of 1.2264.
Yes, ma'am. It's going
there's
down
probably-
7.27.
You vote to adopt the tax rate. The reality is we don't really set the tax rate.
Yeah.
It's all computed at the state level.
Right.
We
And
have to
they
send it
say-
for approval.
Right.
They force us to compress down.
As I said, we have compressed down 22 cents
Right.
in a very short period of time.
Last 4 years, right, yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Any chance that it can go even lower before we meet in August, or this is pretty
Uh,
much?
Not in balance the budget.
Oh, well, never mind, we're good then. Okay.
I mean, yes, I mean, the INS side, instead of calling 2.25 million, only call 1.5 million or something, I could lower the INS side. But that gets us out of debt by 2027.
And one more question, if you will refresh my memory on calling the bond,
Yes, ma'am.
what is that? Will you explain it again? When you call the bond?
When you call the bonds, you're doing like your mortgage, we're just gonna make extra principal payments.
Oh, okay.
It'd be like paying off a car loan, you know, you put it on a 7-year note, and you pay it off in 5 years, or you pay it off in 6 years.
Okay,
That's the.
very good.
So you said those loans that are due for for 2031 would be paid off then 2027?
You say, you
Well,
pay
the-
off sooner, but you say some of the interest.
If we
costs.
keep this
If we
up
keep it up,
Extra
right.
principal.
until 2027.
Okay.
If we're able to keep it up
We'll be debt-free if we haven't issued any more debt.
by 2027.
Okay.
We have some non-callable bonds that don't come due till 2027, so.
All right, awesome.
Okay.
All right.
So do we make a decision, are we at?
There's nothing to vote on.
We have it yet?
Nothing to vote on that.
Okay,
We'll
okay.
do that
This
later.
is just information.
No,
No,
that
this is
we'll
just
have the meeting.
information.
We will
That's
set
at the end.
we'll set the
At
agenda.
the,
That's
at
at
the
the
end,
end.
okay,
Set the next meeting.
okay.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's move to section number 7. This is business items requiring action.
7A is to discuss and consider possible action on a proposal for facility master planning services from owner of builder's resource. This is Robert Yabwaw's company. A few months back, I was asked at that time to facilitate a facility study of how we can sit there and what we're gonna need to do moving forward in the future with our strategic planning, what items are gonna be our hot topics and items as we move forward.
Mhm.
We are addressing Arthur out of fund balance, and we're gonna be able to do that, but as we've spoken, we're not gonna be able to continue to do that, and having a facilities assessment was highly sought after by the board before. And so, we've had all the construction and all the stuff with the architects and everything, so it kind of got pushed back, but now I feel like we're ready to start moving forward with that assessment. So, and this is a proposal to conduct that study.
All right, were there any questions from anyone on the board regarding the proposal? I lost my
And the reason
connection.
why it's below 50,000, but we already have contract work with them as a consultant with our other projects. This will put us over that 50,000 threshold. That's why it's coming before the board. Okay, so I didn't clarify that, so.
So this in and of itself, it won't, but when we add this to what we're already doing with them?
Yes.
Gotcha, correct, okay.
All right. So I believe we need a motion to approve.
I make a motion to approve the proposal from Owens Building Resources LLC as presented.
I will second.
There's motion and second. So I think that was motion by Ms. Moody, second by Ms. Douglas. All in favor of that motion, let it be known by sign aye.
Aye.
All opposed? And that motion passes unanimously. All right, great, that will be 7A. Now we move to 7B. That's discussion and consider possible action on property and facility master planning services for owners building resources. No, I'm sorry, that is I have lost my Wi-Fi connection, and so I can't see all of my information, so. Discuss and consider possible action for Shaq's recommendation for curriculum materials.
You mean take a look at it?
Yeah, please do.
On May 27th at the board meeting, I brought you a proposal to pass a resolution so that the SHAC could convene to discuss instructional resources and curriculum related to human sexuality. Thank you for approving that. I'm here tonight to finish off the task. So this is the timeline that's provided by TASB that aligns with the new legislation that was passed last summer. The board adopts policy. We've done that. Board adopts resolution. We did that on May 27th. SHAC holds 2 meetings. I'm going to go through the timeline with you tonight. And what I'm bringing to you today is board voting on the recommendations made by the SHAC. So the relevant timeline is what I just described to you. The board passed the resolution on May 27th. The SHAC met on June 7th, June 9th, again on June 23rd, where the SHAC approved the motion to move forward with proposed curriculum programs, which I'm going to share with you tonight. And then I'm bringing to you tonight the recommendation with the request that you approve it. So since all of you didn't have the opportunity to attend the meeting, I thought that it might be helpful if I just provided an overview of what was discussed. We met 3 different times. I am not a member of the SHAC, but I was a district representative, and I came and shared some information with the members of the SHAC. We reviewed the SHAC requirements for mandatory prevention programming, specifically family violence, dating violence, child abuse, human trafficking, and human sexuality. A piece that was a very important part of this discussion was that previously a lot of these things were discussed, but it wasn't required that there was a recommendation. It wasn't required that the board vote on it. And that's the biggest piece that has changed. And so I went in explaining that we in Kennedale, we didn't have an intention to make sweeping changes, but we wanted to bring to them the different programming pieces that were being used in Kennedale and make sure that those were clear and then move forward with the recommendation. And a very important piece of this is that parent consent is required, but it's not as if a student who didn't bring a permission for, or didn't bring the form where the parent said, I don't want my child to participate in this. It's opt-in only. And so parents have to be very intentional in signing the form before they can participate in this programming. And that was a big point of discussion. So I wanted to share that with you. And then we talked about the different resources that we looked at. We looked at cost, we looked at availability. One of the pieces of legislation is that these materials are available for parents to preview, and so we looked primarily at online programs so that parents didn't have to necessarily drive up here and flip through paper materials. We wanted something that they could peruse from home if they'd like. And then also grade level appropriateness. So thinking about these topics, well, what would be appropriate in a kindergarten class might be very different than what would be appropriate in a 10th grade class. And then we developed the recommendations. So very quickly, I'll review some relevant legislation. We have Senate Bill 9 that requires schools to educate students on prevention related to child abuse, family violence, dating violence, and sex trafficking. So one thing that we discussed in the SHAC was not whether or not we are going to do it, but how we are going to do it, when we are going to do it, and what materials we are going to use. So the requirement is that the instruction must be given at least once in middle school and again in high school. And then the curriculum materials, as we've discussed, have to be based on a recommendation from the SHAC. In addition to that, HB 1525 requires parent consent before instruction. So it's not an opt-out, it's an opt-in. And I think that, just based on the discussion that was had, I think that that will be important for a lot of parents, because if they don't want their child to participate, then they can choose for their child not to participate. And then I just included the related board policy for your reference. So as we discussed, parent consent is required, but it's an opt-in consent. And I'm going to go through and share a little bit about the program. So this was, the option year this year was for health and PE. It was Proclamation 2022. And so this is the year, starting in the fall, that our health TEKs and our PE TEKs have been updated. So these are the substrands. I've just provided it for your reference. And in the meetings, we started with, what are we using right now? We're not looking to introduce anything else just yet, but what have we already been using? So one of the resources that we've been using is Play It Safe. It addresses personal safety issues, child abuse, and sexual abuse. It's facilitated by the Women's Center of Tarrant County. They use trained employees to present the program. So to the first 2 meetings, a representative from Play It Safe came, shared a bit with the committee about the different pieces that they discussed. So in the very first meeting, it was very relevant to me. As a former secondary teacher, she had dolls that she used, and this is what they use in elementary, and they talked about different kinds of touch, safe touch, unsafe touch, and confusing touch. And it was helpful because it was presented in a way that was appropriate for the age group. So one of the things they said is if a touch leaves a bruise, a mark, or causes bleeding, then that would be an unsafe touch. And so just talking to children about the language that they use and the ways in which they would inform someone, an adult that they trust, if they experienced confusing touch or unsafe touch. The thing that we really enjoyed or appreciated about the programs is that the programs that we looked at, they all involve a parent preview. So yes, the parents can go online, but also the representative said that she would be more than welcome to come in and speak with parents who had particular questions, and the parents could look at the trailers, they could look at the information available on the website. Second step, Dr. Devlin actually shared more about this with you tonight. This has been something that our counselors have been using for several years. It focuses on responsible decision-making, working together to solve problems, strong emotions, and getting along with others. And she went into much more detail, but that's something that's included, and we have been using it in Kennedale as well. Always Changing is something that's been used in Kennedale for several years. It's the 5th grade curriculum. They do it right before spring break. They bring the students in, they separate them into groups of boys and girls, and they just discuss changes that happen in the body that are related to puberty. So what else might we consider to address the updated standards regarding physical health, hygiene, violence prevention, and physical activity? And so this is where Proclamation 2022 becomes relevant because they've introduced new standards, and so while we have been using these specific programs, there are some standards that haven't been addressed with the materials that we're using specifically just yet. So this is health and physical education. This is very straightforward. We had the teachers review it. It's not something that had to be included in the SHAC recommendation, but I brought it to the SHAC because it's relevant to the topics that they discuss, and so I just wanted to share it with them. So they had an opportunity to peruse some of the materials. There are a lot of things about sun safety, bicycle safety, and e-cigarette prevention. So in Catch, here are the health strands that are addressed, the PE strands that are addressed, but what you'll see is they do not address reproductive health, which is one of the requirements of the legislation I shared with you. So the piece that we had the most discussion about was Aim for Success. This would be something that's new in Kennedale. What was appealing about it was that it is a one-time presentation in certain grades. So in terms of the opt-in, instead of doing a standalone health class and having to work with the schedule and determine when certain things were going to be addressed, this would be something where if parents chose not to opt in, they could simply pull their child from that particular assembly, which isn't a whole day, it's I think an hour. And that would be the extent of it. So it wouldn't, the scheduling wise, logistically, it would be something that would be easier to facilitate. So it is an abstinence-based program. They present on how to succeed at sexual abstinence. Topics covered include dreams and goals, pregnancies, STDs, emotional scars, setting boundaries, pressure of drugs and alcohol, contraceptives, and can you chance it? They were very clear about that they are committed to an abstinence-based program, and these other topics, they primarily focus on the dangers of sexual activity as related to, for example, STDs. So as I said, it's an assembly that's presented once the students in late spring, and its main emphasis is on abstinence. Per HB 1525, it's an opt-in. So it offers parents the option to preview the entire program, so they actually will come out and do a presentation just for parents before the parents have to decide whether or not to sign the form, which the people who attended the meetings indicated that they appreciated that piece, and we talked about the need to schedule them well in advance so that the parents had time to come and view the presentation before the permission slip was due. It's offered once a year in hour-long sessions, and it's aligned with the TEKS that haven't already been covered from the programs that I shared with you previously. So just in sum, and I shared this with the SHAC committee as well, here are the different programs that we're talking about. The top 3 are programs, resources that Kennedale has been using for several years before, well before I started working in Kennedale. The last 2 haven't been used previously. CATCH is primarily a physical education curriculum that is related to sun safety, bicycle safety, so there aren't controversial issues that are included in that particular piece. But I shared it with the SHAC committee, and I'm sharing it with you for your reference. The piece that we spent the most time discussing was Aim for Success. So what we were looking at is the different grade levels. They did have a representative who was available via Zoom. The woman we were supposed to talk to, who typically does these, I think she was ill, and so we spoke with one of her colleagues, but she was able to answer the questions for us. So we talked about 7th and 9th grade, so that meets the middle school, high school requirement. And then we discussed 6th grade as an option, but not a requirement. We are still required to teach the specific standards, but that could be done through PE, that could be done with a standalone health course, that could be done in a variety of different ways. The 6th grade one-time presentation would be logistically easier to facilitate the parental consent, but absolutely not required. So after discussion and entertaining various options, the SHAC recommendation included always changing Play It Safe second step and Aim for Success in 6th, 7th, and 9th grade. So going back to the timeline, we've held the 2 meetings. You've had the opportunity to see the SHAC annual report, so you can read the minutes of those meetings. And this is where I've come to you to request approval for this recommendation presented and developed by the SHAC committee.
I have 2 questions.
Thank you,
Absolutely.
Dr. Booth.
Sure.
Questions from the board?
Yes. Okay, so since it's opt-in only, my question would be, so we're not talking about family violence. Family violence would affect kids and everything. It's something that we know continues on to your adult life if you're exposed to it.
Sure.
Obviously, we do know that if there's a family violence going on at home, very likely those parents are not going to want that to be seen at school.
Sure.
So what are we going to, how can we address that?
So Play It Safe, that's something that happens every single year up through from pre-K all the way up. And so while Aim for Success, we're just looking at 3 grade levels, primarily because of the sexual content. The family violence piece is addressed at every grade, starting pre-K.
Okay, so.
I believe in 119, update 119, which is going to be, I think, the next item or whatever. There's a component where what had to happen with the TEKS here, where the board has to approve it, the board's going to have to approve some TEKS for that.
For family
They have to go through
violence.
the same process that they went through here to do this.
So as you said, it's something we've been in Kennedale addressing for
Yeah.
several years, but now this is part of what the board approves for the recommendation.
And this one's just for my own, so the TEKS pretty much say like 7th and 9th is good enough for the sexuality aspect of it.
Well, what it says is it's required for middle school and high school. And looking at the standards specifically, because a lot of the standards are already addressed in PE or they're addressed in a science class. And so in 7th and 9th, those are 2 particular grade levels where the standards that are included are not addressed in other content areas.
Gotcha. I'm good.
Dr.
Yes.
Rook, I have a
Mhm.
question. So you offer the Aim for Success for the parents so they could preview the
Mhm.
thing. Is it in person or is there an online?
It's in person.
Is there an
Mhm.
online component that they could also?
They did mention an opportunity. So for the SHAC committee, before they met with the representative, they could go online and they could watch videos and peruse some of the material. So that would be an option as well. And then if the parents want to see the entire presentation from beginning to end, they can come in person and they can see that.
I have a couple questions. I know we talked about, because I was there with some of those SHAC discussions, the opt-in. And I know it's a legislative requirement to opt in, but there was some discussion too that certainly the unintended consequence we didn't want to have, that the numbers of students didn't participate, right?
Sure.
Because of the opt-in. So one question is, if my student comes in 8th grade or in 10th grade or 11th grade, new to the district, and they didn't get to participate, can the parent opt in at that point that they
That's not
attend
something
whatever
that-
that assembly is?
That's not something we talked about, but I think absolutely it would be something that we could look into. I myself can't think of any issues that they would have with it, but I would have to reach out to Aim for Success.
Okay.
Certainly, I can see them having no problem with the 10th grader attending the 9th grade, but
Right.
perhaps an 8th grader attending the 9th grade. So I think as
Right.
long as it's intended for younger students.
Okay, all right. And then the other, obviously, I know these will be presented to the students in English, but for the parents previewing them, we do have large populations that maybe are not English speakers. Do you know, does Aim for Success have the parent preview in other languages?
That wasn't a question that was asked. My assumption would be that yes, they do serve Texas, and in
Right.
Texas, that is something that's very common across the state. It's parents who don't speak English fluently. However, we do have a paraprofessional in our district who does translate during ARDS and during other kinds of things, and so that would be something that, if there were a need, we could certainly have her be there that evening.
Okay. And maybe not even just if there were a need, but maybe to really encourage,
Oh, sure.
you know, somehow when we're
Absolutely.
putting it out there for the parents that
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
if we needed a different language, please just request and we could, if they've got the material.
Yeah, that could be something that when the form goes out, just having the translation at the bottom, that'd be an
Right.
easy.
Because even if
There's
we
it
had
online.
English in one room while it was being presented, Spanish in another, or
Right.
whatever we thought was.
Like I said, I'm
believe it
guessing
is-
the answer is
I
yes.
believe it is in they do have it in Spanish, just because I know. But I wouldn't know, and I'm assuming if they do have it in Spanish, they will have it in different languages as well, or they'll have the ability to.
Vietnamese might be
translate. Yeah.
relevant
Yeah.
here.
So if we could just make sure that we take that into consideration when we're
Absolutely.
sending out the opt-in form. for the
Absolutely.
parents.
I'll write it down.
When
Mhm.
it comes down with like the video components where you can watch it on their website, all that, they have the buttons on there where you can watch it in different languages.
Languages, perfect, perfect.
Yeah,
It'd be nice to offer the option to come in
Their
person as
website
well
is not
for anybody who
translated,
wanted to.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Any other questions from the right? Any questions from the left? Awesome. Okay, so, thank you, Dr. Vu, for that presentation.
I do need a motion to approve the recommendation.
motion to approve the recommendation for curriculum materials for SHAC.
Second.
So there was a recommendation made by Ms. Cruz.
A motion. She made the recommendation.
She made the recommendation.
I make the motion.
You made the motion.
That's
That's
correct.
To
what
approve the
what I said
recommendation.
just now?
Yeah.
If I messed up, I apologize.
It's okay.
Motion, Ms. Cruz, second by Ms. Douglas.
Yes. Did we read the motion just like it is here, though?
Sure thing.
The action?
Would you?
Yes.
why
I'll
not?
read it. If it opens. Motion to approve the recommendation of the SHAC regarding curriculum materials on human sexuality, child abuse, and family violence.
And I second the motion.
And that motion is second by Ms. Douglas. All in favor of said motion, please let it know by the sign aye.
Aye.
All opposed? And that motion passes unanimously.
Thank you very much.
Good. Okay. Now move to section 7C.
The student code of conduct is the only thing that has to be approved by the board. It's required every year. It usually comes from the legislative sessions. The major legislative session where this all came from was last legislative session. This one will not really change anything. There were a few minor changes to it. Those changes were given to you in the summary of changes by Mrs. Adams. She's the one who saw that and worked on the code of conduct. Really, it's a bunch of legal terminology that we have no real control over. So the code of conduct is a legal document. If you have questions, I can bring Mrs. Adams up, but I mean, the summary is pretty good. She put together a pretty good summary for you.
Is there a way that she could give it just so that the people viewing, you know, later on or listening would have some information as to what the changes are? Just a quick overview?
Sure. Can you come down and kind of go through the summary so that the people watching can know what's going on?
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Laura Adams. I'm the district behavior interventionist. And the process by which we do the code of conduct is Walsh Gallegos, of course, they give you a template, and some of it is, a lot of it, most of it is already embedded on there. I go through for the choices that are given. I cross-reference with the board policy that's online to make sure that I'm clicking on the right thing that aligns with our board policy. I made a chart here. I don't know if you have access to it or not. I basically combed through it, and do you have any specific questions, or would you like me to go through it?
Maybe just the categories, just so people, like I said, listening or viewing later, understand that there is a slight change in, searches, just what those categories are. Mandatory DAEP, I see changed a little bit. So just highlight maybe what those changes are, again, for people just listening or viewing later. Thank you.
The search one, I think they just wanted to be a lot more specific. They used to embed school property, we can search clothing, personal property, electronic equipment, method of transportation, school property used by the students, and on. In the revised one, they talked about what they can search personally, and then they went through and made school property like a separate kind of a paragraph. They wanted to kind of go through, instead of just saying lockers or desks, they added school property that's used by the student, lockers, desks, school-owned electronics. I think in the advent of us having the Chromebooks and stuff, and that's becoming more and more common, they just beefed up the language a little bit on that. Very, very small change on the ISS. There was a thing that said that the student had the opportunity to respond, and it was before the administrator's decision is final. Now they still have that right to decide, but we're not waiting around for that. It's the administrator has decided, the consequence of ISS gets put into place, and the student still has the right to tell his side or her side, but it's not done before the administrator's decision's final. For mandatory DAEP, a lot of language was removed, and they did not, Walsh Gallegos didn't give me any kind of an explanation for that. They often will put notes on why they're doing what they're doing. I believe, just because I've gone through this thing with a fine-tooth comb this year and last year, that a lot of this was very, very redundant. The whole paragraph about selling, delivering, and stimulants, bath salts, analogs of any drugs, even if they're not illegal, all of that is repeated in several places. And I think what they were doing was just streamlining. Again, this is conjecture on my part, because no explanation was provided, but it is already in another section. And since it's on there once, it appears that they eliminated that language in 2 or 3 other places. Basically, you're going to see that language for mandatory DAEP. You're going to see it for mandatory, you see it for discretionary as well. That's what I'm trying to say here. And so instead of putting it in both places, they just left it as part of the main, these are offenses under the Student Code of Conduct, instead of spelling them out under each category. The sex offender rules, there are very specialized rules for student sex offenders that are different from the others, so they always have a different category for that. And no explanation was provided for this, but they did drop some language about, there is a periodic review that happens when you have a student who's a sex offender and they are in DAEP. There are rules for when they are under court supervision and when they're not under court supervision. But a review board comes to, or a periodic review, I'm not, off the top of my head, I'm not sure who does that. But a review is done so that we're not letting them necessarily languish there. We basically come together and we say, is this student going to present a problem? Do we feel he's a danger? If so, we'll keep that individual in DAEP. If not, then we can make the decision to move them out of DAEP. Well, The only difference here is that they kind of dropped that language. Let me just look at it. Registered sex offenders under court supervision that transfer into the district from another district, they have to do their DAEP assignment that was assigned in the other district. That doesn't go away. They receive credit for the work that they do. It says the district will consider the recommendation of the review committee as described in periodic review for sex offenders. That was crossed out. It wasn't even on there anymore. So they're not addressing that we're gonna talk about it in a review. They basically have to serve the time that they were given in the previous district, regardless of what any review comes up with. And that is identical for whether they are under court supervision or not under court supervision. Because we have changed our school, the way we're doing elementary now, we are pre-K through 5 for this year anyway. The, under other DAEP issues, elementary students in K through 6 is what it used to read. Now it reads K through 5, will not be placed in DAEP. And frankly, it doesn't say pre-K, and I don't know if that was an oversight of our legal team or not. But they've just changed it from 6 to 12 instead of 7 through 12. Walsh Gallegos did give some explanation on this one about the knife. If you possess or use a location-restricted knife, location-restricted meaning our school district and I believe it's 300 feet. The legislature said for minors. And the problem with that, putting that minors into the law, is that Walsh Gallegos felt that the legislatures it didn't occur to them that we have 18-year-olds in high school. And we were given the option to not put that in there, but strongly advised that because the statute reads that way, we really do need to put the 18. Will it present a problem for us if we have an 18-year-old in high school with a location-restricted knife? Yeah, it's going to. But there are things in the Student Code of Conduct where we can have a review with either the superintendent or the board, and these things can be, I believe, on a case-by-case basis. So that one was really tricky, and they did concede that they feel like the legislature just basically wasn't thinking. When there were procedures for expulsion previously, the student or his representatives were given the opportunity to question the district's witnesses. That has been eliminated. They still have the right to be represented by an adult, and they have the opportunity to testify, to review, and present evidence, but they do not anymore question any of the district witnesses. They did not provide an explanation for that. And that is the gist of it. Very little change besides those technicalities. And I just want to assure you that we're aligned with board policy. It takes many hours, and to make sure that I'm getting it right. And I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you tonight. Any questions?
You have questions from the right?
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, you guys have had a chance to listen to the changes, and this action, this recommendation requires some action.
I move to approve the 2022-2023 Student Code of Conduct as presented.
Second.
Okay, so that motion was made by Mr. Glovier and then seconded by
Serta.
Oh, I'm sorry,
Mr.
Mr. Serta. Second by Mr. Serta. Okay. All in favor of the motion, let it be known by the sound aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Oh, that motion is passed unanimously. We now move to section 7D.
This is the second reading of the update 119. All you're looking at is the changes that are suggested by TASB for the local policies. The local policies are listed here that are up for that. Recommendation is to accept it as presented by TASB.
And these are just recommendations that come from TASB, so it's really nothing for us to do, except this, we have to go along with that, right?
Yes.
I have a question. So, it says legal on them. So how does that, would you explain that again? Because everything here is
It's
legal.
Board does not adopt legal policies. Legal is legal, and those are set by the legislature, okay?
Right.
All
So
that
then-
you're really adopting and approving is the local policies that are affected by the updates.
So where it says, on page 129, at the top, BBBA legal, and at the bottom, it says date issue, crossed out and in blue, update, crossed out and in blue, and then it says BBA legal, where, how is this different from?
You're adopting all the updates. You're gonna be adopting all the updates, including the legal ones, but you are only really, the only ones that affect us as far as what we are able to control are the local ones. So maybe I didn't say that very well, so.
So we're adopting
That's why it
local
focuses on the
policy.
local policy comparison, because the legal is really, I mean.
We're adopting local policy changes to be
Yes.
the same as the legal policy changes.
So then, there will be two documents. One will be the legal, and the other one will be the local. So back to, now I'm on page 127. So in our local, it will be BBA local, yes? No?
Changes, yes.
Okay.
The policy packet is
Yes,
just this thick.
I understand
okay?
that.
I mean, it's all mixed in together, legal and local, it's all mixed in together.
So in our big stack of papers, the front page will be legal, and the other side will be local.
There's a legal policy, local policy.
Okay.
And then sometimes it's just legal policies. but
So then, we're voting to accept the legal. No, you're shaking your head
You're
no.
voting to accept the whole thing, the whole
Yeah.
update.
Okay.
The
policy
legal, we can't
update.
do anything about. The legal
Right.
is the legal, so.
And the local will be the exact same thing, except for the word local at the top? Yes?
Well, not
No.
necessarily, so yeah.
Hi, can I answer this
Yes,
question for you real quick?
please.
Haley Turner, Washkagos. So the legal policy gets changed by TASB when the law changes.
Right.
And they're gonna change it whether you adopt it or not, because they want
Correct.
it to be accurately reflected. The local policy is your local implementation of the law. So you don't always have a local policy for every legal policy, but if what you're adopting right now are the local implementation policies of those legal policies. So the only thing you're voting on is local policies. They're not gonna look just like legal policies. Legal is gonna be citations to statute, to case law, and then
Okay.
local is gonna be in KISD, how do we implement the law? So that's really what you're voting on is TASB's modifications, recommended changes to your KISD local policy. Just ignore that legal, cause they're gonna update it
Okay.
regardless.
All right. So when this is, if we vote on this and it's uploaded to the website, what is it going to say?
So if you approve update 119, then what happens is administration notifies TASB, here are the policies that our board has approved, and then TASB will reflect the new local policies on your website, the policy online. And it'll say at the bottom of each, like BBVA local,
Thank
it'll
you.
say adopted July
Very
28,
good.
2022.
Okay, that answers my question.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
I have one more question for you. Not sure if you know the answer to this one. So I get where the local policies are being put in line with the legal
Mhm.
policies. I get that. Do you know in the changes that we're reviewing, was anything discretionary in there that we added since we were making changes? Or was it simply to align legal with local?
So I don't think, now, and Mr. G can correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think y'all modified anything other than what TASB recommended.
Like I said, my recommendation was TASB's, what
Right.
TASB put forth.
And so the TASB policy service gets together with TASB legal, and they sit down and they decide, do we need to make word changes to these policies based on things that have happened in the law and have changed?
Okay.
And then they make recommendations about what we should change. So it's not necessarily gonna be a one-to-one.
Right.
The law now says this and our local policy says this.
Right.
It's TASB's recommendation of how you implement the laws locally in your district.
Right.
That answer your question?
Yes, so for every legal change, there was a local change, but there wasn't anything else while we're reviewing policy. We'll just make this discretionary change or add this one in here as well, or look at this policy. It was simply to correct our local to be in line with legal.
That's my understanding, because TASB will issue an update. This one is 119, and it'll be a bunch of policies they say, we think you need to make changes to.
Perfect.
And so we just adopt those, if you would like, and that's what's being recommended.
Thank you.
We get updates every, like, 4 or 5 months, so there's always updates that come through,
Right.
and that's where TASB is working to line it out, so.
Perfect, thank you.
Awesome, I think that was a great explanation.
Thank you.
All right. Any
I could have
additional-
said it better myself.
Any additional questions from the left side? All right, I think the right side is outdoing you on this one. All right, okay, so we entertain a motion to adopt that.
I move that,
I think Mr. Glover was gonna do that.
all right, I move that the board make revisions to the local policies affected by update 119 as recommended by TASB Policy Services and District Administration.
Motion by Mr. Glovier.
I'll second.
I'm gonna give it to Mr. Serter.
Thank you.
Serter, give you a second on that. Everyone in favor, let it be known by the sign aye.
Aye.
All opposed? And that passes unanimously. All right, okay. Okay, so next,
7E.
7E is required us to go into closed session, so.
Okay, it's to conduct a level 3 parent grievance appeal, and as you said, it will be needs to be in closed session. So at this time, you're gonna have to dismiss everyone.
Okay, so at this time, we have to dismiss everyone as we move into closed session.
So we're gonna be in consult with our attorney for the first portion of that, so she can explain the grievance process to you all, and then we'll bring in the agreement.
Okay.
Can we do a bathroom break before we do
Yes.
that? Thank you.
All right, so we can do a 5-minute bathroom break, and then we will enter in closed session, and then,
Those that will be participating in the grievance when we bring them back in, please stay, but please be in the hallway out here. And then after our attorney briefs the board, then we'll bring everyone back in. Okay. All right.
okay, all right, we'll take a 5-minute break. We good? Okay, great. So we're back in session, returning from closed session at 9:03 p.m. All right, great. So now we're back at 7F, consider to take possible action level 3 parent grievance. Before we even go to that, I want to thank both of you for coming. And I want you to know that we really heard what you said. Okay? As a matter of fact, we want to ask the superintendent to conduct a review of the KISD athletic handbook and how it's being implemented, implementation. Okay? All right, okay. So now we'll entertain a motion for the grievance.
I move to uphold the level 2 decision issued in the parent grievance.
Motion made by Ms.
Cruz.
Cruz Perez, there you go. Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
There's a second. Mr. Glovier has seconded the motion to uphold the level 2 grievance appeal. All in favor of that, let it be known by the sign aye.
Aye.
All opposed? There's no opposed, so that motion passes unanimously. Thank you, guys. All right, let's move on to 8, personnel. Mr. G.
As usual, you have the resignations and the hiring. I have not been made aware of anything that we would need to go into closed session for, so on personnel. So that's where we are. The campus is still working to get fully hired, so getting close.
How close are we? Pretty close.
bilingual has been difficult. So, we're trying to find bilingual teachers right now. That and special ed teachers, very, very difficult.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. G. I guess we can roll right into number 9, which is the superintendent's report.
Okay, so I had a few things that I was asked to report out on. First was Kennedale Youth Association, KYA. Mrs. Mode and I met with Donnie Bordeaux and Derek Kelly from KYA on Wednesday morning. They had expressed their need to procure a new practice area as they were recently displaced from where they had been practicing and were going to be in need of a new practice area. We looked at the available green spaces within the district, and we set out on 3 that would meet their needs. They were able to practice all in one place down in Mansfield, but we don't have the space for that. So we talked about them maybe splitting out their teams for the practice areas, but we think it can be accommodated. So we also had a conversation on, our relationship between the district and them, and they were very complimentary of what we've been able to do with them. So I kind of asked, I said, where is this, narrative that the district's not helping you coming from? He said that they weren't real sure, that they think it was some people in the community, but they were very complimentary of what we've been doing, and they appreciate what we're doing. We've also talked about expanding on some of those things as well. So I think we had a very positive meeting, and I said they're happy, and we're moving forward. They're ready to start their practices. The second area was our foreign exchange students.
Hold on 1 second, can I ask a quick question there? So when you said they're gonna be accommodated for practice, for games, what do we?
We've always accommodated them for games, so, practices we have not, because they were practicing in another area, But they
Okay.
had their, like you said, they were practicing, I think, at Joe Middle School in Mansfield.
Okay.
Home games are played here, and practice right now is at Linda Job in Mansfield.
And
So
So
I
what
was
do we
thought
accommodate?
they only could do 4 games here.
Do what?
They were only doing 4 games, so is that, I'm just asking for clarification.
Depending
Hold on,
on
hold on,
the level is how many home games they would have.
No, their statement was that they were limited on how many home games, so that's why I'm asking the clarifying question. When you say we're accommodating them, in what way are we accommodating them?
Okay, so I don't know where they're saying that they were limited on their home games. We told
Okay.
them that, usually they have 5 home games. When we say home games, that's like weekends, because
Okay.
they all play in the same spot. But you have to realize, we've got Tuesday nights, we've got Wednesday nights, Thursday nights games there.
Okay.
We could possibly also have games all day Saturday on that
Okay.
field. That field is not in good shape, so when we say limited, they can't play unlimited games on that field, so
Right.
that's not part
So
of the
we've
agreement.
accommodated with home games
Yes.
and then practice as well?
We have not practiced, because they've never asked to practice here.
Okay.
They've never contacted us about practice until they were displaced from
Right.
Joe, and when they, in Mansfield, whenever they said that they are not gonna be able to practice there anymore.
Right.
And so now they need a place to practice, and now they reached out, and we had a meeting, and we're accommodating that.
Okay, so they are gonna be allowed to practice?
Where are they practicing?
Huh?
Where are they practicing?
They're gonna practice on one area of the junior high school, not the game field and not the junior high practice field until a later date, because we just reseeded that as well. We just reseeded the game field and reseeded the practice field. But there's an area out front that is
The old
suitable for
baseball field?
practice. It's the old softball area where
Yeah.
it's fenced
That's-
out.
that's a lot of space over
And
there.
then the area outside the stadium out here with the green space. And then the other one is the area behind Delaney on that field
For
over
the
top.
flag.
Okay, good, okay. All right, thank you.
So, the second thing is foreign exchange students. We have 3 applicants for foreign exchange student. All 3 have been approved pending that the requirements per state law for their shot records are met. This is all done on a first come, first served basis. So that was,
So I think we had 5 slots approved, right? So we've had 3 of the 5 requests.
yep.
Okay.
Okay. Like I said, the only thing holding right now is the shot records. That y'all gotta meet that, and that
Right.
should be the responsibility of the placing organization, so.
Gotcha.
All right, so the next one was C, hiring practices. When I entered the district historically attended no university job fairs and relied on applicants that applied to the district to fill its jobs. We have been moving to attend collegiate educational job fairs for the past 3 years, but we're delayed in these efforts when they were shut down or conducted virtually the past 2 years because of COVID. We put together a list of colleges hosting job fairs in person this year. I gave you a list of those, and we were able to attend very few due to increased registration costs, limited available space resulting in being waitlisted, and logistics. Several of these occurred over spring breaks when we didn't have personnel, and also our principals and our admin were a little shorthanded this year, so being able to have time to go to job fairs was not always feasible. However, we have put together all of our jobs out through, we put all of our jobs out through the collegiate job board known as Handshake, which goes out to all colleges that subscribe to this system. We also received a list of eligible candidates from the alt-cert programs. We are always looking to expand our pool of applicants, and you know that's something that is ongoing and a process that we're continuing to refine. So, and then D is construction projects.
Can I ask a couple more questions about the hiring
Sure.
practices? I know you and I have had kind of conversations about, do we look at kind of like what some of our need areas are? Do we have that sort of sort of analysis? I know you were just saying bilingual teachers, sped teachers. We've talked about before, like our number of minority teachers, and does that mirror sort of our population of our students? So do we have that kind of somewhere kind of outlined or assessed and incorporated into some of the colleges that we are specifically intentionally targeting when we're recruiting?
I know you have given me a list of historically black colleges that you would like to see us go reach out to, but we have not. And like I said, historically we have not, but we have gone to Prairie View A&M. We went there the first year that I was here before COVID and all that hit. Yes, Dr. Booth.
Ms. Wells is not here anymore, so she has reached out to several colleges, including HBCUs, asking to develop a relationship to bring student teachers here. Because a lot of times when student teachers come into a district, they want to stay there because they're comfortable there. And so she has a list that we talked about. She has a contact of all the different places, and so we've been added to their university list for people to.
Awesome. Thank
And
you.
that was another thing, I didn't have it on here, but we have increased our, I guess, expanded, tried to reach out to more colleges about bringing in student teachers into our, as she pointed out, in all areas, but we didn't have a whole lot of student teachers that were coming to us when I first got here, and now we're getting more and more, so that's another area.
Will you update this for, I guess, 2023 as we go into it? Can we get another, because a lot of these are March 22 dates, April 22 dates, so this would be kind of like past, so.
Yeah, that was this last year.
Right, so.
Yeah,
are we-
they
I
don't
presume-
start advertising the job fairs until around late January, February.
Okay,
about that,
so when we get to that point, we kind of have another one developed, can we get another copy of that, please? All right, thank you.
I have a clarifying question about hiring. So you said the principals go, or just HCM?
They send everything to anybody who's available on different days. This year was tough with subs and everything, so several of the principals said I would love to go, but I just can't right now. I think Courtney Spencer went to one, from what I remember.
You were gonna try to go to TCU,
I haven't been
but
as closely
TCU.
involved in this particular process.
I was gonna go to San Marcos, which is a big teacher school. I was gonna go to that one and hit Belton on the way down, but we didn't get on, we couldn't get in, so.
Okay.
So we didn't make that one, and then I know,
Go to the Regional 11 one.
the Region 11 one's very, very small, and so, but we did go to that one, I know. There were a few others.
I know Ms. Wells went to.
And I think,
Okay.
I believe we made UTA, and I'm pretty sure we made UTA with Mr. Cagle and Mr. Ryan.
It doesn't come from my office, so I.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't hit as many as we wanted to, but there were a lot of
things that kept us from getting to them.
Right, I know this last year was challenging. So it would help for me if I saw, kind of like I said, as we developed the next one, kind of what our targets are, and then which ones we actually attend and who went.
And the other thing is that a lot of these schools don't have job fairs.
Correct,
you know,
correct.
so-
I think the ticket is kind of what Dr. Boo was just saying, developing those relationships and just knowing that we're open and we're very intentional with what we're looking at, because I do think we need to, obviously, we need teachers, everybody needs teachers, there's shortage on all of that, but I think being very intentional of trying to go out to some of the HBCUs and some of the maybe predominantly Hispanic colleges, and just really trying to, with some intentionality, trying to mirror our student population with our teacher population would be
All right.
a very admirable goal.
All right, I think that's admirable as well. Okay, all right.
And update on the jobs, the construction projects, the portable delivery and setup was delayed until this week. All portables have arrived and all are set up at Patterson. Delaney's arrived yesterday and are currently being set up as we speak. The engineers finally finished the specs for the concrete removal. This has been a very arduous process with all of these different groups that we're having to deal with people on vacation and, working around their schedules, but it has taken a while for them to get the specs drawn up for the concrete removal and then the replacement. But we were waiting for the go-ahead to proceed with moving forward with this process. The projects for the campuses have been delayed by permitting, but should be moving forward now. Arlington was able to do their permits pretty quickly, but the city of Kennedale, once again, with personnel shortages and moving people around, and they hired someone and they lost the person, so they've had their holdups. It has delayed the permitting process for us to move forward with the things that we need to get done, but they are moving forward now.
So you're like talking about the secure vestibules, is that what you're
Secure
talking about?
vestibules and some of the things in the junior high school that we need to get done.
Okay, so when you're saying Arlington did, so are we moving forward with the Patterson one then already, since we've gotten those
Well,
permitted?
it's a group thing,
Oh,
so
okay.
it's the same company will be doing them all, so.
Okay.
Yes, we've been in contact with them to start the process over there.
Okay.
How quickly are those projected to be installed?
I don't have a timeline at this point in time, so I'll have to wait till they get in and tell me what
We haven't heard.
their idea of how long it's gonna take them to get it done, so. Also along with that, the claim on the baseball concession stand has finally been, approved by all the insurance companies. There's so many underwriters on all these policies nowadays, it has to go, Woods of London is a big one, and it has to go all the way to England for approval. There was some, back and forth that took forever on that concession stand, because it was an old portable building that they bricked around, and that caused some of the delays with the claim. And it's finally been finalized, and that should be getting done, so hopefully it should be built before baseball season starts. Our maintenance staff have been busy moving classrooms and furniture, and we should be ready for the first day of classes. This mode's guys have been busting it, and I think everybody is ready to, get the teachers moved in. I know there's a lot of angst with the portable, trying to get everything moved in there, but we've got stuff ready to move in, and once we get the approval to go, we'll go. Brian and his guys will be working on the internet for the portables, and we'll get that all hooked up. We should be set by the first day of school. And then I gave you an updated draft of the board reporting that was requested also, and I gave you an updated board. It's a process that we've been going through, like we've been tweaking and moving things around, trying to see what fits best on the calendar. So this is the latest, greatest version of it as we try to shuffle some things and move them where they fit better, and hopefully we'll be finalizing that. That will also be the prelude to leading up into our balanced scorecard, which we're going to get before we beginning of the school year. So we'll be rolling that out.
I have questions about the
Okay.
calendar. All right, so this is the calendar. This is the academic calendar. But other things that annually occur. So,
No, this is not the academic calendar. This is our balanced scorecard calendar. so maybe I misunderstood what you were.
Oh, okay, well, I'm
But
saying
it- so
academic calendar
When we say
because.
reporting, this is what gets reported out to the board, this is what we're reporting on.
Okay.
And some of it's finances, some of it is counseling services, some of it is CCMR, some of it's House Bill 3, some of it is STAR and EOC, not EOC, STAR, EOC, and MAP data, sorry.
Yes, the MAP.
Yeah.
Okay, so then if we want, I guess that would be Claire, help me with this. If we want something, a report to be brought, that would not be automatically on the calendar, we would send that request to you?
Report as to,
Like campus drill information, campus attendance information, the tutoring, tutor.com information.
Right.
That wouldn't be planned throughout, that would just be a request?
but
Okay.
I don't understand what attendance and all that, we give
I mean,
attendance
we do get
reports.
attendance, but like, we get a general attendance. So if I want to know how our African-American students are doing attendance, how our Hispanic students are doing attendance, that would be more of a more specific.
Specialized report.
Report, yes? So that would just be a request? Okay. All right. I thought it would be all on the calendar, but I got it. I'm good. Okay.
So are there any, like, any systems that information is fed into that, wouldn't have to be on the, we could just extract ourselves instead of having to bring it to a board meeting?
We have our, extract it yourself off of something? No. There is that, you're saying yes over
They
here.
can pull a report, if
Huh?
that's what you're asking. Yes.
But if just because
For a
I
board
pull the
member to pull
report,
a report?
that doesn't mean the
No, no.
public knows.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, there, yeah, go ahead.
It's a different conversation.
Yeah.
Okay. Just request it, you're,
Okay.
you're saying just
I'll just
request it if
ask.
we need to see it?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Uh-huh. And that's it for my reporting.
All right.
And now we're going into 10.
All right, so on to section 10, board discussions, board operating procedures. Back to you, Mr. G.
Okay, so I sent you the board operating procedures for your review last month, I believe after our last meeting, and hope you've had time to review through them. Don't know, if there's anything that you feel that needs to be evaluated or changed, on the board operating procedures, or something we need to review or go through.
I think the only question,
It needs to be,
It's really
these should be
just ready.
reviewed every year. And I think the last time these were reviewed was 1920, so, yeah. Well, COVID hit and board shuffled and everything else, so.
Well, in our board operating procedures, I think we do need to go through them. It also mentions that our start time is 7 o'clock. I know it's something we talked about discussing, making an adjustment to. I kind of like starting at 6 o'clock if that's possible. I'm fine with moving it to 5:30 if you guys can make it.
I'm
for
breaking the
that.
speed
I'm
limit.
for 5:30.
sorry, I need to cook dinner before I get here.
These guys are for 5:30, I know that.
So,
I'll bring dinner and we'll do it at 6.
okay, so do we need to go through this set a time to go through this and bring all recommendations that any board member may have?
Or we can maybe set a special meeting and kind of just hash through it. It's up to, if you got revisions or things you think, you can submit them, or if you want to have a special meeting and work through it, like a work session. It's up to you.
Could we make that part of our?
I'm sorry?
I like a special meeting.
Could we make that part of that
Oh.
training that we need to do in August?
Mr. G, you're not supposed to make those comments.
Sorry.
Special session is
I think
fine.
Well, you're shaking your head, I was like.
No,
I think a work session
work
would
session's
do us good.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then, in addition to that work session, part of what's in the operating procedure right now is that the board will conduct an annual assessment of itself. And that leads to B, which is I gave you several tools to look at. Don't have to make a decision right now, but, you let me know where you're leaning with that, and then we can put it may be a combination of them. It may be one stands out over the other. And then make a decision on what tool you want to use, and then that could be part of the special session also, is where we do the assessment, so, okay?
Absolutely.
So we
Because I believe we did do one already, so within the last year or so, I guess.
Yes,
I think it
yes.
was.
Yeah, we did a board
We
evaluation.
did one when we did the Montesi governance training.
Yes.
And then that was leading into our strategic planning and all that. The board conducted one then.
Yeah, I think we went with the TASB suggested format or something like that.
We were the Montesi on that
Oh,
one.
okay.
That was Montesi, but Mr.
Okay.
Owens has brought the TASB version. And then
Okay.
I got one from Region 11 that included, and then there's the Montesi ones also.
Okay, perfect, yeah. I know we did do one last year as well, so.
I think that's what it was, because I knew we had done it, I just
Yes.
didn't know if we had done it. Yeah.
Yes.
So it was
With
at,
this
it was at the, before we did this, I guess it was the TPA training, yes. Okay. Okay, so do we need to talk about setting it up now, or we can?
Well, I think that's C where you start setting up you start discussing meeting dates and times and
Okay.
when you want to do it. So, I
Alright.
know we've got training that we
Here it
got to do for you two as new board members. We have to do your orientation training, so. And I think Tracy sent out a invite to that, so let us know when.
Yeah, we need to
We
get
need to set our
together.
dates of when we're available,
When
because
you're-
I think
when
it's a
y'all-
3-hour training.
And that'll be training with Dr. Vu, Mr. Adams, and myself.
Okay.
Right.
I think we also talked about possibly considering, because I don't think we did this last year, we had obviously our training, but kind of meeting with each program head as well, kind of talking a little bit.
I'm sorry,
is that-
can I go back to our orientation training? So I know it's 3 hours, that's long. Could it be like divided into 3 different sessions, or does it have to be the 3 hours put together? Considering that both Steve and I work full-time.
I think we could do
And
it
I don't
however,
think Dr. Vu
you know.
should, or you wanna be here until 9 o'clock at night.
3 hours with my jokes, but.
Well, I'll take the 3 hours of your joke, but I bet you wanna go home at a decent time too.
I fully support that.
Because it'll be done during the workday, right? So
No, it could be done after hours, I
Really
believe.
after hours?
Yeah.
I mean,
I'll do it whenever you ask.
we could, if we did it like, say,
4 to 5.
4 to 5.
I would
you know,
love
and
it,
spread it out
but
over 3 days or whatever, then we might.
I
be able
would
to-
definitely love
Okay.
4 to 5, but unfortunately, I have one
honestly,
problem with
I'd
that.
rather just do it.
I
all.
am not able to
I'd
do
just take
4 to
half a day
5
off
right
or
now.
A couple hours off and just knock it all out, but.
I'm not able, I honestly
Y'all
am not
talk
able
amongst
to take
yourselves
time
and
off
figure
from
that
work.
out. So,
Yeah.
Okay,
I'm too
let us
new.
know. All right.
All right.
Now then, back to your question. What was your question?
We're kind of like a two-part. I think we had kind of just been throwing around the idea too of just sort of meeting with each department head and just kind of getting an overview, you know, like, let's say with HR, this is how many staff we have, this is generally what, you know, our budget is, you know, 70% goes to staff salary, just kind of like an overview of each. I know we kind of do reporting throughout the year, but just kind of like an overview of everyone. And then I know not right now would be a good time, but we also talked about depending on each person, some of, especially the new boards, may not have been to various campuses, if you don't have kids in the campuses. And we said maybe if the new people are gonna go to the campuses and kind of take a tour, we all could kind of take a
Tag
tour
along.
again, because, you know, I haven't had kids at Patterson. I've been to Patterson for various things, but I'm more familiar with the schools that my kiddos went to, you know, so just all of us get a, kind of a walkthrough with all the buildings and, just a little brief
Well, I
with
think we're
each,
gonna do that.
with each
With the
department head.
strategic, when we're looking at the strategic planning that, with the facilities, I think that's gonna be a big part of what we do.
Okay,
So,
okay.
yeah. That will be a big part of it, so,
Okay.
because you're gonna need to see what
Yes.
the findings are. But, all right, so
But that's gonna
setting
be
the dates.
after hours, right? It's not gonna be during the school day?
It would have to be after hours,
Right.
so, yeah.
Okay, just checking.
And then maybe consider each department head too at some point. Thank you.
Okay, we are now at 10C, upcoming meeting dates and times. So why don't we start with next month's meeting?
Next month, I think we said we wanted to do 8:25 for the normal meeting, so that we could push the budget to the end of the month.
How's everyone's schedule look for that?
Because originally it was the 18th, right?
It was
Yes,
originally the
yes.
18th, yes.
So move it to the 25th.
Yeah, 25 is better for me.
So we're looking at the 25th at 6 o'clock?
Yes.
Okay.
Unless you wanna go 5:30.
Before 6. I need to get
Yeah, I'm gonna pay for
We're not doing
speeding
5:30.
tickets, so.
And
All right.
when do we want to do the work session?
Well,
If we're doing that on the 25th, y'all want to do that like 2 weeks before it? Does that sound?
That would be the
Oh, we have the
14th.
teacher night. I can't do
No.
it on the
Before
11th.
school
No,
starts?
excuse
Or
me.
maybe the 18th, because we were already kind of thinking the 18th would have been a school board meeting.
He's
Yeah.
got something on the 18th.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
I'm on vacation again.
Oh,
Vacation.
this guy.
Vacation? School starts on the 16th?
so then we're talking about the 11th. How does 11th look for everybody?
We have meet the teacher
It's,
night
no, that's meet the teacher, I'm sorry.
on the 11th.
Let's do
Oh,
it on
the
Tuesday.
teacher, does that have to be
Yes,
Thursday?
meet the
Let's
teacher
do it
for
on
all
a-
of our.
Let's do it on a Tuesday.
Okay, on the 16th, maybe?
Yeah, we can do Tuesday if everybody's good with
I
that.
can't
So
do
that day 2 of the
We
year.
can do when?
Okay, no, Wednesday.
We're
The-
doing-
No.
The 10th?
16th?
The 16th. Oh, no. I have a meeting.
School starts on the 16th.
School starts on the 16th.
Okay, then I guess we're back to the.
It's a work session, so it should not, it depends on how long it's gonna take to get through the document and put it together and looking at the assessment. But,
You guys are
you
gonna
know, I
think
wouldn't
I'm.
think it was gonna be a 3-hour meeting. I would think it'd be like an hour, hour and a half, depending on how.
You guys are gonna think I'm crazy. I mean, does it have to be Monday through Friday? Could we pull it off on a Saturday morning?
That is crazy.
My Saturdays are not open until the 20th.
What about Wednesday the 10th?
Wednesday, the 10th. Yes.
Everybody available on Wednesday
Oh my
night?
goodness.
Oh,
Yes.
and what time are we, isn't it
I
evening?
think
I'm
we're
not,
back
but I
at
can
6
change.
o'clock.
6 o'clock?
Yeah, I'm available that day.
6 o'clock Wednesday
At 6
night?
o'clock, Wednesday the 10th.
Okay.
That's our work
And
session.
we should be out before 8,
I think that works.
hopefully.
We said an
that
hour,
true?
hour and a half.
Okay, and I'll,
Oh, yeah, I got it.
Okay, so we're doing August 10th
So
from
the
6 for
10th
the work session.
at
Yeah.
6 is our
And
work
August
What
session.
time?
25th for regular school board meeting.
What time for the special?
6
Six.
o'clock.
6?
Six.
Okay.
I'll be late, but I'll be here.
Okay.
I'll be late.
All right.
I wish we could institute 5.
What did we call it?
Special
You're
work
fine.
session.
Okay, so we have a date for our work session will be Wednesday, August 10th at 6 p.m. And we will have our scheduled meeting on Thursday, I'm sorry,
25th.
25th. I didn't change the date here, sorry. I knew something was wrong. 25th, okay. So we're good. And within that meeting on the 25th, we're gonna have our
Budget, public hearing.
public hearing.
Yes, it'll be one of the agenda items.
Great.
Announces a public hearing. It will have to be broadcast in the newspaper.
Okay. All right, great. All right. And 10D.
10D is convocation, so every year we start off the school year with a welcome back celebration type thing, convocation. It is going to be on the 12th.
What time?
That's right, Friday,
10
August
a.m.?
12th, yes, at 8 o'clock in the morning. So we will start off in the cafeteria of the high school with our staff. You're all welcome to come to it. It's gonna be fairly short and sweet this year, so, you know, we're gonna be in the pack. We'll leave out of the cafeteria at about 8:45, and we'll make our way over to the pack, and probably about 30, 40 minutes there, and we'll be done. So
Okay.
we'll be done by about 9:30.
So I can just be late to work that day.
So 8 o'clock in the cafeteria, 8:45 in the pack, be done at 9.
We're doing tacos. Sounds good.
Unfortunately, I will not be able to be
Commissioner, you're
there.
making tacos? You're making tacos?
What?
Did you say you're making tacos?
I'm not making them, but
Oh.
we got somebody that's
Oh, I
providing
heard you're
breakfast
making
for us,
tacos.
so.
Okay.
Are you volunteering?
No, no, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Well, I'm assuming it's tacos, I don't know, it may be something else, but, that, Mansfield Methodist is gonna provide breakfast.
Vacation.
Oh, yeah.
That's Monday.
Ice cream social.
Ice cream social with the board, so you have a guest on.
Oh.
And
very
is that
good.
Patterson, correct?
Accommodation.
It's here, it's 3:30 to 4.
Oh, it's gonna be here?
On
3:30
Monday
to
the
4, this
1st?
is with our new teachers. Okay.
3:30 to 4, and that's this Monday, right?
Yep.
It's from 3:30 to 4.
Monday the what?
August 1st.
August 1st?
Next week. So, yeah.
And here, right?
3:30 to 4.
Media center.
I thought it was gonna be at Patterson, I don't know why.
We
They
had
had-
an
they
ice
had a-
cream.
I
think
did
that
have
That was
it
last year.
That was last year with welcome.
They had
Welcome, Miss,
possible
Miss,
principals.
yeah, that's
Foxy
what,
principal.
This is, we've done it every year I've been here.
Okay.
Yeah.
With the board.
it was fun.
Band comes, it's very exciting.
Oh, yeah. The band.
Okay, all right, so I got that down.
It's really cool.
All right, well, if there are no other items to be discussed, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Mr. President, I move to adjourn this meeting and get up out of here.
You know,
I
we-
second.
We don't even need a second on that.